the moment that changed the face of world cricket. Well, at the outset, I'd like to say it's an absolute honor and privilege to have in our midst three of the greatest batsmen to have played the sport of cricket. I think all of us here would agree that you have given us, the Indian cricket fans, plenty to cheer about, whether it's the World Cup victories, the Test victories, the #1 ranking in Test cricket where Mr. Kirsten was our coach. So I'd like to extend to you a very warm welcome. I think the topic before us is management lessons from World Cup victories. Now, there is no substitute for the talent that you guys possessed. But I'm sure there were small things that went behind the scenes in facilitating these victories. So we'll try and look at these reasons and see how they can possibly be applied in a corporate environment. So I think I'll start with the legends of 1983. Now, before 1983, I think we had won just one victory in the previous edition of the World Cup. One-day cricket was not very high on the agenda. Even the bookmakers had us fairly low down in the pecking order. But when the World Cup started, this team was on fire. It was not a one-off because I think 2 years later, we won the World Championship of Cricket as well in 1985. So what were the reasons behind this transformation? Mr. Gavaskar and Mr. Amarnath.
As an opening batsman, I guess I have to start.
Very true.
But good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure being here and to be amongst all of you all, and hopefully we'll be able to say something which might actually be of interest to you. But coming to your question, I think the real sort of transformation started about 2 or 3 years earlier. Because till 1980-81, when we went to Australia, India was playing just the odd one-day international, whether it was a team touring India or India going anywhere to England or whatever. But in 1980-81, when we went to Australia, we had a tri-series with New Zealand as the third team. Australia were the hosts. And during that series, we had to play, we played about 10, 12 one-day games. Now suddenly, from it just being a game which you played just once on a tour, we suddenly had so many matches to play and against different opponents, different pitches. So I think that is the time when we as a team started to think more seriously in terms of one-day cricket. Till then, I think it was pretty much, just a one-day game, let's have some fun kind of attitude. But I think after that, we started to think in terms of tactics, in terms of bowling changes, in terms of batting order, in terms of field placing. That is when we actually started to think, and I think from there on, when we beat Australia, we beat New Zealand also in that tri-series. We didn't qualify for the finals, but we had victories over both these teams, and that gave us the confidence to think that we could go and do well overseas. So I think that was I think the first step in the transformation of the mind. More than anything else, I think cricket is, as Gary would agree, Jimmy would agree, cricket is a game that is played between the ears. If you, however much your hands and your legs come in, if between your ears you're not 100%, then the hands and the legs can do what they want. You won't be successful. You will not be successful consistently. So I think that transformation took place. We started to look at the game a little more, one-day game a little more seriously. And then not just us, but also the people around, like the selection committee, etc. We started to look at players who were more suited for the one-day game, might not have suited the test, the longer format, the 5-day format, but those who are suited for the one-day game. And that's how we started to develop a team that eventually went on to win the World Cup in 1983.
Mr. Amarnath, would you like to add something to that?
Yeah, I would like to Thank you for inviting me here, and बहुत बहुत namaskar to lovely people of Abu Dhabi. And I'll say 2 lines आप लोगों के लिए. अपने हुस्न का जलवा देखना था जिसे मंजूर, उतर कर कतराए शबनम में आफताब आया. And very true actually, as Sunny has mentioned, but I tell you very frankly, when we were playing the first two World Cup in 75 and 79, we were there for holidays. First World Cup, everything was paid for, whether we had won one game or we had qualified to the next round or not. So I said, "ठीक है, this is a lovely life." We were not used to one-day cricket. When the team was selected, I said, "ठीक है, मौज मस्ती, 1 month holidays." We would stay till the finals, and we did actually, we all did, and we were clapping for other 2 teams in the finals. And we got free tickets, free holidays, ample time to shop around. I was young at that time, Sunny was also young, but I'm talking for myself, not for Sunny. And I said, okay, like you're 24, 25 years old, young guys, in those days going to England used to be great fun. So I said, okay, we'll see such lovely, beautiful blonde girls over there. That was first thing came into mind as an Indian, whether you're a player or not. But in those days, not when many people used to go to England. So I said, ठीक है, good holidays and all that. We had no idea what one-day cricket was all about. And even 79, we were playing the World Cup match. I remember like we had a manager. He left the team. He went to America for shopping because he didn't expect team to win anyway. So even we lost to Sri Lanka also. So in Sri Lanka was not a big team in those days. But I think we are not ready for one-day cricket. I think the other thing also happened probably during this period, that we got some idea about one-day cricket. Although we didn't win, we didn't play many games, many one-day matches. And as Anil just mentioned, that we got some experience. And the other thing also happened during this period, that a lot of players started playing professional cricket in England. And maybe not everybody like was playing county cricket, but a lot of players were playing in league cricket, where there was only 1 professional and 10 amateurs. So a professional had to do well. And the whole entire team, I think, depended on the professionals. So I think that confidence also people start getting used to playing on those underprepared club substandard wickets at times. So that made them tough, the technique improved, they got some experience of one-day cricket, which we used to play in league cricket. So that also helped the team to have a good format for the coming 1983 World Cup. I think the other credit also goes to the selector. Probably, I think in my lifetime so far, probably that was the best experience cricketing selection committee we ever had, where we had cricketers who had played and achieved at the highest level.
And Mr. Kirsten, 2011, a totally different scenario. We were the favorites. We had the weight of expectations of 1 billion people. We were playing at home. We had lost the last World Cup in 2007. So we were expected to win, but we had a tough match against Pakistan in the semi-finals, probably watched by the most number of people. It was supposed to be the single most watched event. We won that. So what were the keys to success for the 2011 team? Obviously very different from 1983, but still we won. So what were the reasons that went behind it?
Well, thanks for inviting me again. It's lovely to be here all the way from Cape Town, which is about a 10-hour flight, which I got in this morning. So I'll try and stay awake through the function. You know, I actually don't think we were the favorites in 2011 at all. In fact, we were playing okay, I think, not that well. And also, history had told us that 15 years prior to that, India had only won 4 out of 22 finals. So I don't think and it was a World Cup at home, which we always know, no team had won a World Cup at home, and there was kind of a massive amount of pressure in that space. So I certainly felt that the players were feeling the pressure, the weight of expectation on it, the hype around the event, I think was really tough for the players. Let's remember, these are kind of 22-year-olds and 25-year-olds, and kind of managing that pressure is not easy at all. And you can't get away from it in India. So we had to come up with some unique and kind of dinky little ways, I suppose, to try and take the pressure off as much as we could. So we never spoke about winning the World Cup throughout the 6 weeks. It was something that we just kind of stayed away from. And we just said, you know, if we play our best cricket on our home turf, we'd be a tough team to beat if we played our best cricket. And we just tried to focus on playing as good as we could. And we didn't get it right all the way through the World Cup. In fact, what I loved about the event was that guys, some of our players who were hopelessly out of form through the tournament actually came into form in the knockouts. And in both Jimmy and Sunil would tell you that World Cups is all about peaking at the right time, and your best players playing at the right time. And I think a couple of our players really stepped up in those knockout games that really turned that tournament around for us. But going into the quarterfinal, certainly from a coaching perspective, wasn't full of confidence that we could kind of go through in the event, but yet we weren't focusing on winning it. We just wanted to play really good cricket every game.
Yeah, I think both of you have mentioned the mental aspect of the game. Now, as an example, I would ask about a person like Virendra Sehwag, what made him tick? Because under your stewardship, he seemed to really play well. He scored triple hundreds, double hundreds, centuries all over the place. I think that was the best part of his career. So what made him tick, and how were you able to channel that his talent?
Verinder, what an interesting character that is. I think the beauty about cricket is that we're all so very different, and we all play the game very differently. And I think if you come in as a coach, which is a very dangerous space for a coach, and try and implement a one-size-fits-all approach, you're going to blow yourself out of the water very quickly. I think through Sunil's influence, they saw in me that maybe I wasn't an individual that was going to be a one-size-fits-all, and that I was the type of individual that might relate well with Indian players. And it was an interesting process to start out with, and I really had to get to know each one of these guys. And I don't think that quite got me initially. Who's a South African coming in telling us how we're going to play cricket? And it took a bit of time to connect and build the relationships with each one of these players. But in a Virendra Sehwag, and in a Tendulkar, and in a Gautam Gambhir, and in a MS Dhoni, I began to understand the personalities of these individuals and work out what I could do in my kind of limited capacity in many ways to try and add value to their careers. But I think the biggest thing for us as a team, and what made it such a privileged journey for me, was as a South African to arrive into this foreign space and to be accepted by the players was number one, massive for me. And then number two, I think what we try to do is we try to get the concept of being a team rather than a bunch of individual brands kind of high up on our agenda. That was critical for us. And we did everything we could through 3 years of work in our daily language about what we are embarking on. Every series, every test match is playing for the badge, for the Indian people, for the bigger purpose, other than I just have to get runs for my own brand. And I definitely sensed that when I played against India over many, many years, we felt that there was a period of time where we could actually put the senior players under pressure, and the team would kind of fragment a little bit. And I felt that when I played against the team. So kind of when I was coaching, just made sure that we would try and pull together in those pressure moments.
Man, the 1983 team, we didn't have a coach. We didn't have a full-time coach. We didn't have people look at the mental aspect, like a mental conditioning coach that we have these days. We didn't have video analytics. So how was the planning done? Was it for every match? Did you have specific strategies, or was it more spur of the moment, inspiration that drove you in each of the matches in the 83 World Cup? How did it work? What are the dynamics?
Well, for 1983, the basic planning used to be, what are we going to have for dinner tonight? Because we didn't have a coach. We had a manager. That's it. So we were 14 players plus a manager who had, I think, played maybe one Ranji Trophy game. That's it. Or maybe not even that. But somebody who was tremendously enthusiastic about the game, still is. He's still very, very passionate about the game. He was an administrator. And I think where it mattered was that we had a dynamic captain. A captain ideally suited for the limited overs format. And to guide him, we had Jimmy as the vice captain, because for Kapil's exuberance, there was also the experience of Jimmy to balance it out, particularly in situations sometimes that we found ourselves, and we were in tough situations. Against Australia, for example, a match which we had to win. People always talk about the Zimbabwe game, but there was the game after that against Australia, a match we had to win. And you could actually, see how great the interaction was between Jimmy and Kapil as far as bowling changes were concerned, because the ball was doing a little bit. And therefore, sometimes there's a tendency when the ball's doing a little bit for your number one bowler, who was Kapil, to keep himself on for that extra over. We had to be those were the days of 60 overs, not a 50 overs competition. So we had to be mindful of the fact that you mustn't finish off the 12 overs to be able to balance the overs out. So I think that was all the time, that interaction was all the time going on. And when you have that kind of a combination going, and all of us around, were there, we were like, happy to give our views. We were the sounding board, but at the same time, happy to, make a contribution. But eventually, I think it was the belief that we had, because we had beaten the West Indies in the West Indies, because the West Indies at that stage were the undisputed, kings of cricket, all forms of the game, Test cricket as well as limited overs. But we had beaten them in Berbice, and we had beaten them handsomely. Then at the start of the World Cup, our first match was against the West Indies. And we beat them there again by a very good margin. It wasn't just one of those narrow last over kind of wins. And I think that gave us the belief that we could do it. And I think we were superbly led by Kapil and ably assisted by Jimmy. And we had a combination where we had the flexibility. Kapil had the flexibility as a captain, because we had Jimmy who could bowl, we had Roger Binney, Madan Lal who could bat and bowl, and who were outstanding fielders. Kirti Azad coming and bowling a bit of off spin, also a big hitting bat, Sandeep Patil. So we had the combination that was suited for the occasion, suited for the conditions that obtained in England.
So captaincy, of course, played a very big part in terms of leadership. But now, if you look at modern day cricket, if you look at some of the IPL teams, we have a multitude. We have a head coach, a batting coach, a bowling coach, a fielding coach, a mental conditioning coach, mentors. How does that all fit in? If you
don't forget the Massias.
Yes, sir.
Messi is the most important.
Yeah, so how does that fit in? How does that reconcile? Because on the one hand, we have, is the role of the support staff, do you think it is overemphasized in this day and age?
Well, I never played under that many people, so I wouldn't know. Gary's.
Put me under pressure there. Yeah, listen, I think you need to be careful with it. I've always maintained from a coaching perspective, you are a value add rather than you are the show. The players that walk on the field are the show. Unfortunately, I was, having played professionally for 17 years, I know what it feels like, but I also know, and as Sunil, I think, has put so well, you need leadership in any community, any group of people, any country, anywhere. You need quality leadership. And that's really where you can play a role as a coach. But I think, to kind of have all these add-on support staff, they do add value if they know their place and they're not an end to itself. You're here to kind of add value to what the player is now. Let's remember we have moved into the professional era, and the only reason why we have all this support staff now is because all professional sport has moved into that space. But I think where one needs to be very careful is that the specialist spin bowling coach doesn't tick the box of he's done his job and that's all that counts. He's there to share in conversation with the bowler who's going to walk out onto the field and go make the plays. And I think I've always been mindful as a coach to be very careful in that space, that it's actually not about the coaching structure. It's about the players and will always be about the players.
Mr. Amarnath, you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I think the other good thing of 1983 was, as Sunny mentioned, that in meeting we used to just have tea, coffee. Not much of a cricket was discussed actually. Basically, we would just announce who 11 are going to play, or if you're not sure, maybe 12. So it was very clear from players' point of view who was playing, who was not playing. And the other good thing used to happen that we all used to meet in the evening down in the bar. And the day we were not playing, and whether we were drinking, not drinking, we would just assemble together and have a lot of fun, would have a lot of fun. And then we would go out, as Sunny just mentioned about food and all that. So I think that I basically united the team in some way. And I'm a strong believer that cricket is an individual game, if you look at the game. But when individuals start performing, it becomes a team game. So basically, Kapil left it to all individual. He was a strong believer that everybody knew his job. And of course, he had the experience, like Sunny was a very experienced man, Kirmani was around, Madanlal, Roger. I mean, they had played a lot of cricket and they had seen a lot of ups and downs in their career. So I think that also helped. That's why I think he just left it to every individual to play to his best of abilities. And that also helped in a way, because when a person went in, like for example, Zimbabwe game, then we were 5 down 17. And I still remember that Tunbridge Wells ground, the dressing room was in the basement, and it was dark and dungy over there. Whosoever got out never came up for a good 20 overs, because I thought if we were 5 for 17, probably we would score 100, 150 kind of a thing. And then when Kapil started playing his normal game, I think that's what the greatness about Kapil's batting or bowling or any ability on the field as such. He just remained normal and played his natural game. So then Shrikant was standing with Man Singh, and then one guy came in, the reserve player, and then he said, okay, this is total and all that. So then out of those guys, those who got up, one guy would go up just to see, probably it's a lucky charm or something. Then he wouldn't come back. Then that means something good was happening. Then the other guy would go up. So finally, those 5 guys, those got out, they went up also to watch the game. And believe it or not believe it, I think the guys, those who were standing in one position, I think stayed there for a good couple of hours. They didn't move. As Indians, we are very superstitious, you know. Shrikant kept his hand on Man Singh, the manager's shoulder, and it was there for a good few hours. And he would kept smoking cigarette one after. So probably I think when you play to your best of abilities, I don't believe too much things in theories before the game. I believe that it should be, your mind is your best computer. Actually, you can plan millions of things, but when you're in a crunch situation, I think it's your mind going to help you and tell you what is right, what is wrong. So this is what actually happened in the World Cup game. And Kapil, I think he led from the front. I think that game, especially Zimbabwe game, probably help and rub onto the entire team that we felt, okay, we came out of those crises and there is an opportunity for us to go forward. And the experience of like Sunny, even Kirmani, for example, he was an experienced player behind the stumps, and Balwinder Singh Sandhu, as we had the bowlers also for those conditions. I think that also helped to have a good all-round side. So we never gave up. I think that was the biggest quality of 1983, whether we were 5 for 17 or 100 for 1. So we knew that we would just go and fight it out. And when every individual start performing to his best of abilities, and I don't think you can go wrong anywhere in the world.
You've spoken about cricket's superstitions. Now, cricketers are known to be a superstitious lot. I mean, we've heard stories that when Anil Kumble took 10 wickets against Pakistan, Sachin Tendulkar would go up to him, pick his sweater, give it to the umpire, then collect it back, give it to him. He did that every over, because every time he did that, some wickets seemed to fall. Similarly, in 2011, do you remember any such crazy superstitions that went on during some match which worked?
I'm sure there were, but I didn't know of anything. I'm sure there were many.
Yeah, I think you've all mentioned team unity as a driving force. Now, in cricket, you have a 14-member squad. obviously 11 can play, especially if you talk about a semi-final or a final. What goes through that 12th man or the 13th man's head, saying that he can't play, he can't be a part of that? So how is that unity? How do those people, how do they stay motivated? What is the trick behind that? Because 3 people would not be playing, right, in every match. How do you keep them motivated? What goes behind the scenes there? Any of you?
No, it was very simple. And Guy, those were not playing. And they were, I would put it this way, they were great staff, supporting staff as such. And see, in reserve plays in the semis and finals, we're talking about Ravi Shastri not being a part of the team. Dilip Bensaka, he got injured before the semis and before the earlier games, so he was not a part of it. And Sunil Walson from Delhi. But I think it was a very happy dressing room. I think that was very, very good thing about the team, and it was a fun-loving players. We had joker of the team, Sandeep Patil. He would play practical jokes. He keep the spirit high, and then Shrikant, he would do 10 things in one go. And so we had all different personalities over there. Our manager, Peter Man Singh, was more or less, he was like a friend. So probably it was a good unit we had. I think that kept us going right through the World Cup. I don't think anybody felt bad that he was not part of the 11. I think he was also happy for the other guy who replaced him. Like Ravi played a few games, and then he was not the part of, Bensaka played, then somebody else replaced him in the middle order. So there are no grudges or ill feeling for anybody. So that way I think that we had a happy dressing room, that whether we were off the field or whether we were traveling in a bus or whatever we are doing, we're doing it together. So I think that gelled very well with the entire team.
I think that's a problem that management also faces, because you have appraisal cycle every year where some people get promoted, some don't. But the trick is to make sure that those who are not promoted stay motivated and they continue to perform, because at the end of the day, it's a team game. Would you like to add something to that, Mr.
Yeah, I think
Gavaskar?
the ambitions of everybody has to be towards the team goal, and the team goal's winning the World Cup, winning the match, winning the next match. And I think that's what that particular, those 2 teams, 83 and 85, had. I think I've been on several tours with the Indian team. I think those 2 teams of 83 and 1985, which won the World Championship of Cricket, I think those were the teams that actually, practically every evening when we were not playing, either met, as Jimmy said, or went out for dinner, or went out where there was a huge group. So out of a total of 14 players, 10 players went out to eat at the same place, maybe at a family's house or to a restaurant. The other 3-4 players may not have come for whatever reasons, but I think that was those were the 2 teams that actually ate together a lot. And the old saying, the family that eats together stays together. I think it was something with that. But as Jimmy mentioned, I think there was also a sense of having fun, that this is sport, that this is, yes, we have to win, but there was also that sense of having sport. He talked about, some of the practical jokers, like Sandeep Patil. He's omitted his name from it, but I mean, he looks very serious, but as far as practical jokes are concerned, and I've experienced it myself, where in Pakistan we were playing a 3-day game, 4-day game before a test match, and he's actually thrown my shoes on the roof of the dressing room. We had just a ground story dressing room, and he's thrown my shoes up there, and as luck would have it, within 20 minutes, unannounced, the president of Pakistan came to watch the match. And as captain, I was sent to meet him. And I'm saying, how do I go and meet him without any shoes? But I finally managed to get some shoes. Then again, then a few months later, when we were in the West Indies, he again threw somebody's shoes off, which almost caused an incident. And which when I was told just now that Mohinder is going to be there, I made sure I wore shoes with laces and not slip-ons which could be slipped off or whatever it is. So no, but I think you need somebody to lighten the mood. You need somebody to be able to say something in the dressing room, and we had that. We had Madan Lal again, somebody who would say something which, despite the tension in the dressing room, despite having a situation where it was a touch and go situation for the team, you had somebody who said something and it lightened the mood. And again, when something like that happens, you feel that much more energized. And I think that really was the secret of that team, that we had players who were very, very good players, experienced players, a terrific captain in Kapil, but also guys who were prepared to laugh at themselves and make others laugh.
And who did that role in the 2011 team? The role of making everyone laugh, lightening up the mood?
I would say that the funniest man that I worked with in the Indian team was Abhijan Singh. I mean, he was a real joker. I think these guys have made a really good point. You want to be enjoying yourself. You want to be happy as a team. And I think the test of a happy team is always how is the team when the team's not doing so well. It's great to be happy when everything's going well and everyone's raving about you. But when the team's going through a bit of a lean patch, then what is the team dynamic like? And for me, that's where your reserve players play a very important role. And just working with IPL now, we actually have more players off the field than on the field. And I have found in my 2 years with Delhi, which has been a fairly challenging task, that it's managing the players off the field that's actually harder. Because these are guys sitting around, they're not getting any game time, and are they making a contribution to the team space? And like any one of us in a workspace, if you're not enjoying yourself, you're not going to be motivated to work. If you're not enjoying what you're doing, you're not going to be motivated to work. And I find it really tough for some of these guys, how they get through 8 weeks of a tournament, and they really know that they're not going to get any game time, or very little, how they stay motivated and strong. And what we had to come up with really creative ways to keep them interested in the bigger cause. But I think if you've got those guys that make everyone laugh, and you've got a happy team space, that regardless of whether you're winning or losing games, and you've got a talented group of players, you're going to win a lot more games.
You've touched upon the IPL, and I think Mr. Amarnath mentioned that one of the reasons why the team performance peaked was you had people who had exposure to the English county season, where you would go and be exposed to different kind of pitches. Now we find that because the IPL is in the months of April and May, you don't have too many cricketers now playing in the county. I remember Srinath and Kumble, Dravid, all of them had seasons in county cricket and they were much better for it. But now Cheteshwar Pujara went last year, but you hardly find anyone playing in the county season now because of the IPL. Where do you draw the balance? What do you think? Do you think people should compulsorily play 1 year, like for example Virat Kohli, brilliant player but not as good against the moving ball, perhaps. Maybe a season in county cricket may be great for him. What do you think?
I think the Indian team is so much in demand for tours that they really have very little free time. So even when you're looking at the Indian season is generally from October to March, and now with the IPL it's April and May as well. But now you will find that in July, India is going to either Zimbabwe or Bangladesh, or they are playing against Sri Lanka. We've had series in India starting as early as August a couple of years ago when New Zealand came in and went to the parts of India where there's no rain. So for Indian players to be playing county cricket is pretty much impossible now. Current Indian players, active Indian players in the contracted list, because they will be playing, they'll be required for India. And no county is going to sign you if you're not going to be available for a major part of the season. Maybe not for the whole season, but the major part of the season. As it is, you're missing out till the end of May. And then if you're going to go back in July or mid-July, I don't think too many counties would be interested in a player who's going to be just available for 5-6 weeks. And one of the reasons why not a lot of England players are in the IPL is also because of that. is because their England season starts in April, middle of April, second week of April. And therefore, none of the England players are available for the IPL, excepting a few who take the plunge and say that, they keep their England careers on the balance. But it's a choice that every individual has to make.
But is it affecting Indian cricket in a negative way, do you think? This comparative lack of exposure to other pitches in their free time where they can have a finishing school maybe?
I don't think so. I think there might have been a time earlier on when the overseas players playing county cricket, you would say, were really top level overseas players. So when you played county cricket, you got huge experience playing in different conditions, playing against these top players. I'm not too sure, and with due respect to all those cricketers who are playing, I'm not too sure that the top rung of international players from different countries are playing in English county today. So I don't think it'll be that much of a difference if you play county cricket or not.
Another subject is, from a management perspective, is change management, driving change or new ideas without upsetting the apple cart. Now, from a cricketing perspective, a new captain or a new coach takes over, he'll have his philosophy, he'll have his ideas, he'll want to implement them. Now, we had some examples. For example, John Buchanan was coach of KKR. He brought a revolutionary new concept of 4 captains. It didn't go down well with the team at all. I think they finished bottom of the league that year. So what do you think is the essence of implementing new ideas? How do you go about it? Mr. Kirsten?
I think we live in times where you have to accept that there's going to be change and you have to move with change. And if you're ahead of the game, you're going to embrace new ideas and new thinking a little bit quicker. But I generally find that it's much easier to work with junior players in that space than senior players. Senior players become a little bit more set in their ways. They've experienced success. They've experienced performance. Why must we change? We're doing things right anyway. I think the one nice thing about the game as it stands at the moment with our 3 formats, and especially T20 cricket, it's kind of naturally brought in change. The thought of, hitting the ball in the air for 6 for someone like me, who hardly ever did it in my career, would have been like a mind-boggling thing to even begin to practice. But for me to survive in today's game, if I didn't do it, I wouldn't make it as an all-format type of cricketer. So I think the players that embrace the kind of what the new game is are the ones that are going to stay in the game longer and do better. We just have to look at arguably the best batsman in the world, AB de Villiers. He can play all formats of the game equally successfully because he's learned how to adapt his game to all different types of formats. Let me say that on the back of, it's very important that your fundamentals of your skill are still sound. And that's the beauty of Test cricket for me, is that Test cricket is, for me, the purest form of the game, and it will test you out and it will challenge you. If your fundamental skills aren't sound, you're going to get found out. As a bowler, as a batsman, as a fielder, if they're not sound, you will get found out in Test cricket. You might be able to hide in some of the other formats, but in Test cricket, you're going to get found out, and that is the beauty of the game of Test cricket for me.
Since you've touched upon Test cricket, I had a question which I had planned for later, but we have dwindling crowds in Test matches now. We had the Test matches recently in Mohali, hardly anyone. The matches here in Pakistan, Pakistan matches here in Abu Dhabi or Dubai, Test matches hardly have 20 or 30 people. There are more ground staff than there are spectators. Now, what do you think of the new idea of day and night Test cricket? I think next week we have a match in Adelaide, pink ball Test cricket. Do you think it's a good idea? I know from a commercial point of view, yes, perhaps. But from a cricketing point of view, do you think it's a good idea?
Well, I think we've just got another 10 days to wait, really, because it starts on the 27th. So I think, as they say, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So I think we'll have to just wait and see how the crowds respond. There could be a novelty factor, which will bring the crowds in. But speaking of day-night Test cricket, as way back as 1978, Sir Don Bradman mentioned it to me. I was sitting and having a chat with him, and he said that there will be a time when there will be you'll have to look at day-night Test cricket. That was also the first year that we actually had day-night one-day games in the World Series cricket. Packer series. Wasn't there in international cricket there. And I think coming from there, Sir Don Bradman also thought that there would be Test cricket played day-night because of the fact that they only on a Saturday and Sunday is everybody free, or most people are free to come and watch. What about the working day? What about the rest of the week when people are earning a living? Not everybody can take time off from 9 to 5. Some people can maybe take time off from 9 to say 11, and the others can take time off from 4 to 6. But that doesn't fill a ground. And therefore, I think we'll just have to wait and see. Because while the concept is good, I think the whole thing about Test cricket is how will the pink ball do? We've seen in Test cricket, despite the lights being on and you're playing with a red ball towards the end when the light has faded, it's never easy. Not just easy for the batsman, but for the fielders particularly, to see the ball. So I think how that pink ball comes through, that is going to be the most vital aspect of this experiment starting next week.
I think especially with the dew factor as well, because how will the ball behave with the dew? How do spinners grip the ball? Does it change the dynamics altogether? Or you may have a green top wicket where at night the ball is seaming around, like in Cape Town. Very possible. Mr. Amarnath, what do you think about the idea?
Definitely, I think it's the effect of a shorter version of the game. And when you talk about IPL, paisa fek, tamasha dekh. And I think it's a great entertainment. In the olden days, people used to go to Kotha to see dance. Now we see it at the ground. And probably I think the other thing they should do, I think they should have more cheer girls coming to the test matches. I'll tell you why. Once I was in Goa and I had gone to a chemie shop in the afternoon. As you know, in Goa, probably 1 to 4, everything is more or less shut. So they were about to shut the the shutters. I came back and they said, come in the evening. I went back in the evening. So the IPL game was on. So all these guys are watching the game, and they were serving the customer, but eyes were up there on the television. They didn't want to miss a single shot over there. So I said, kiska match ho raha hai? Pata nahi. I said, pata nahi. He said, nahi saab, every day there is a game, so we get confused who is playing and who is not. I said, but what are you watching? Cheer girls? So, no, I think IPL is great entertainment, and when we should leave it to entertainment, that is fine. We shouldn't expect anything more than that. Yeah, coming back to Test cricket, I think it will be a big test, definitely, playing with pink ball now. And maybe I think it won't be a bad idea, as far as I'm concerned, to maybe cut down the number of overs, like to the maximum in each inning. And then when you play the second inning, third or fourth inning, I think there should be restrictions so that you have a result on the fifth day of the test match. We shouldn't play like on a wicket like Mohali where the game gets over in 2 and 2.5 days. Substandard wickets are not needed. And I think if you start watching good cricket, testing cricket, which we used to watch a lot in the olden yesteryears, so probably that will attract a lot of people coming to the ground. I think in India it's happening because people want more action, we don't have time. And Sunil has rightly mentioned that maybe day and night games, so you have more time, maybe you won't go for the whole day, maybe you'll go for a couple of hours. We don't have a culture like England or Australia where we buy tickets for the weekend, for holidays, we plan our holidays, we don't plan all that. And of course, we always look for free tickets also or complimentaries. And so who knows who, that's the way it is. And but I think there's no harm in trying and see how it works. And because a lot of practicalities will come into the game, the dew factor as you mentioned, and maybe the light, the background and all those things. But there's no harm in trying because Packer was called pajama cricket and then became a great success. Who knows? We never know actually unless we try. And it will be nice to see and watch, and I'll be definitely watching this. I only watch cricket when I'm doing a job, otherwise I don't now. So I'll be eagerly watching, and I hope it's a success because I think we have to move ahead with time. And new things when they come, they're different, and maybe I think we'll all like it, and maybe we'll have more people coming to the ground, and more viewers and more fans enjoying this test cricket.
Which country do you think has the best system to produce top quality cricketers? Put you all in a spot. Which country would you say has got the best system right now?
I think it's got to be Australia and South Africa are the two countries. I'm not saying because Gary is here, but no, if you go and see the facilities available, the infrastructure that they have for junior cricket development of the game, I would think that those are the two countries where there's the best structure. Having said that, I don't think any country gives the kind of opportunities to junior talent as much as India does. Because we have so many junior level tournaments. We have the 8A teams, we have the under 19, we have an under 16 tournament. So I think we have really got lots of tournaments. Now, whether the under 19s are really under 19s or the under 16s are really under 16s is another matter. But the competition, the competition that is there is really, really very good. And it actually gives them a platform to showcase their skills at a very young age. So a lot of people come to the fore early. One of the reasons why in recent times India has had cricketers playing as early as, Tendulkar is an exception at 15, but everybody else coming in at 17, 18, 19, going on to play for India is because of the junior cricket that India has.
Would you agree with that, Mr. Kirsten? Do you think it's Australia and South Africa followed by India?
I would make a statement that I'm surprised India aren't by a long way the best cricket team in the world with the resource they have. It surprises me that there are so many people playing the game with so much cricket going on, with so many cricket matches going on every weekend, with so much resource. It just surprises me that they're producing so many players, and the only way I'm seeing it is through the IPLs. You just see these young players coming up every year, just great young players. It surprises me that they're just not at the top of the pile non-stop, and whether that can happen in sport or not, I don't know. But I just think other countries pale into insignificance in terms of volume and cricket structure. I think where Australia have done well, they've created a good system through their first-class cricket. England to a degree as well with their county system, although people criticise it as well, that the standard of cricket's not that high. South Africa probably in between. Australia, I believe, have probably got the strongest first-class structure. But for me, it doesn't make sense that kind of India don't really sit at the top of the pile then.
Where do you think the problem lies then? We have the money, we have the numbers, we have a multitude of people playing the game, but where do you think the problem lies? Mr. Amarnath?
I think probably I would say in the system, to be very honest. And when we play first class cricket, I think everybody gets enough opportunity. And when it comes to selecting the Indian team, I think it's a very, very difficult thing for the selectors who to leave and who should be there. But automatically, I think when you select an Indian team, I'm sure any of you sitting here can select 9 out of 11 straight away. It's a matter of selecting the next 2. And I think sometime in domestic cricket, we experiment too much with wickets. One season, I think the probably instructions will be given to make green wickets and leave a lot of grass. So leaving grass on a wicket, I think is not going to make you a better bowler or a better batsman. I think you have to learn to play on good wickets and learn to perform on good wickets, not on underprepared wickets. So I think first thing probably we should do to improve the nature of the wickets at the domestic level, not only at the domestic level, even at the junior level. Because a lot of money the BCCI is sending to the association, but I don't think all associations really utilize the money in a right manner. So probably we have to do a lot of work at the grassroots level to improve cricket, provide better facilities. And that means that you should make wickets which are up to the international standard. Wherever you're going, I think you should have such kind of wickets with the system. And play according to that actually. Then probably you'll become an all-round kind of a player to play on any wicket, under any condition. So that has not been the case. And I think sometime probably I think players are bigger than the setup also. Maybe like if suppose the team is going to Australia, probably they would like to only have a camp where they are comfortable. Whether the facilities or the grounds are ideal for preparation for the next tour, we don't know. But I think their comforts are kept like given more preference than the practicalities and the preparation of the tour. So I think those little things probably will help. But I think we should pay more attention to cricket at the grassroots level. It's like hockey, for example, why we are not really the world champion anymore. Because the facilities are only provided at the highest level. There's nothing happening at the district level or village level or school level. So unless and until we start doing that and start uplifting the standard of cricket from there, then probably things would get better, because we have the money, we have everything, we have the sadhan and we have the facilities and all that. But I think let have these facilities for everybody, so that we have a great bunch of cricketers now. These youngsters are, I think, terrific, because they have so much talent. But I think it's only the preparation and a little bit of experience, and even maybe playing a little bit cricket in England and Australia and South Africa when they are not really a part of the team. I think the other good thing I think also noticed during the test matches, those who are not part of the 11, I think they've been sent to play domestic cricket. I think that's a wonderful move by the selection committee and the BCCI. So this kind of a thing, I think they should have done it a long time back. But the future is very good of Indian sport, Indian cricket. I think it's just need a little bit better preparation.
And you touched upon selection. So have you as coach, captain or selector ever faced any pressure from certain quarters in terms on selection matters?
Have we not faced pressure? You've asked the question the wrong way around. Every time you select, there's pressure.
Okay. I'll move on to the next question, because I think it's a googly, so you've left it outside the off stump. You let the ball go. I think we'll let the ball go. Speaking of the overall management of cricket, the subject that is being hotly debated is the inclusion of cricket in the Olympic Games. Now, the argument obviously is that you will have the governments of, say, China or US pumping in money to support cricket if it's an Olympic sport, plus greater viewership and exposure. The other argument is mainly from England, that the Olympics are held in July and August, which eats into the England season, so they lose a lot of money. So what do you think? Do you think it's a good idea? Should cricket be part of the Olympic movement?
Yeah, well, I'm not too sure. I mean, I've actually never thought about it, because the idea of cricket being in the Olympics has never occurred. Certainly, while we were playing, never occurred. So, haven't really given it much of a thought. Cricket was part of the Asian Games.
Yes, 2010 and
2010. I think it was 2000 as well. 98 in Malaysia, when.
That's the Commonwealth Games, I think, 98. That is the first and only time.
Commonwealth Games, not Asian Games. Asian Games.
Also we have.
Yeah, 2010, but also Commonwealth Games.
But India didn't send the team last year. That was the aberration. We had Asian Games without India participating in it. So
Yeah, I know the Commonwealth. You're right. The Commonwealth Games in 1998 in Malaysia, because my son Rohan always tells me I've got one blazer that you don't have, and that is the blazer that he had for. India blazer for the Commonwealth Games. So I think that experiment wasn't all that successful, because Commonwealth Games is the closest you can get to the Olympic Games, because even the West Indies teams, they all came in as separate islands. So being part of the Commonwealth, so it was Barbados and Trinidad and Jamaica. It wasn't the West Indies team. They were all coming as individual island teams. There was Australia, South Africa. So in a way, there was pretty much the same thing, but you need quality pitches. If in cricket you don't get a good pitch, you will not get good cricket. It's as simple as that. And the quality of the pitches becomes an important thing. So wherever you play, wherever the Olympics are, if you're not going to get quality pitches, you're not going to get good cricket. And cricket, in any case, I think the only format which would probably be the one that would interest the spectators is the T20. because it's a game that finishes in 3 hours, a little over 3 hours. Even the one-day game, limited overs game, goes on for 7 hours. And I don't think the Olympic itself, the whole Olympic tournament lasts for that long.
I think the chairman of Cricket Australia suggested beach cricket. I think came in the papers or 2 weeks back, saying that the same reason, saying that pitches and grounds can't be prepared by, say, Rio de Janeiro. They'll have no clue what a cricket pitch looks like. So they're saying, why not have beach cricket? Now, I mean, obviously, I think that idea wasn't sort of commented upon or taken forward. Mr. Kirsten, what would you say?
No, definitely not. I think T20 cricket could work at the Olympics. I think it could be quite an exciting kind of adventure for cricket into the Olympic movement. It would be nice to see if it comes off.
Okay, now another subject which is in the corporate sector, the last 15 years, we've seen a lot of corporate frauds, from Enron and Satyam, so many frauds that have taken place. In sport, not just cricket, we have the doping scandal now in athletics. We have doping in cycling. We've had the FIFA scam. And cricket, we have the spot fixing and match fixing problems that have taken place. Now, what do you think additional needs to be done to curb this menace in the sport? Mr. Amarnath?
No, I think if you're caught, you should be hanged. There is it. Unless and until you have strong rules and discipline them, things won't change. When you're bigger than the game, or if somebody has done something, maybe you're out for a couple of years and then he'll come back and get an opportunity, then probably this thing is not going to stop. It's very difficult to actually stop unless you really, really have very strict rules. And once you, I think, take that guy away from the game, which he loves, which he adores, I think things may change. And that's the only way probably I would think we should, all boards should get together. And the problem probably happens at the ICC that we don't agree with a lot of things together. And when it comes to game, I think you have to think about the game and the future of the game as such. Because sport makes you learn a lot of things in life, because when you play cricketer, you become a very disciplined man. You know how to go about it. And mentally you become stronger, physically you become stronger, and you see ups and downs, and that makes you understand that life is not going to be rosy for you all your life. So I think that you learn a lot of things from a game. So I personally feel that all kids should play sports, because that will teach them a lot and then make them a better man for the coming years.
Mr. Kirsten, which was sweeter for you, coaching India to the World Cup win, or your victories as a South African player, where you were the #1 team in the world for donkey's years? But which was sweeter for you? Which victories were sweeter for you?
It's difficult to say. Are you talking about me as a player or coaching?
Both. As a player for South Africa and as a coach for India.
For me, my departure point is the experiences you have as a player are always number one. They're always the most important thing. To walk on the field and go into the heat of battle and to be the one participating in the international matches, nothing can beat that, without a doubt. But a close second for me would be the experience I had with the Indian team, without a doubt. It was to arrive on Indian soil as a foreigner, fairly intimidating space with very little coaching experience, and then to be kind of accepted by the Indian players that I could help them and add some value to their cricket was a massive experience for me and a fantastic privilege. So it's difficult. I think it would be difficult to do that again, to be honest with you. It was a rich experience for me.
And how different was it to coach the South African team after coaching the Indian team? Is there any difference in mindset or the way the players are conditioned?
Completely the opposite.
Really?
Yeah. I think it was the beauty of being in those two different coaching spaces. I couldn't believe how different the players were. If I had to give you a summary of that, Indian players, felt up. They played a lot on instinct, a lot on flair. I think it's the way they were introduced into cricket and brought up in cricket, a lot of them. They seem to be prepared to take risk and accept the consequences of that, whereas, and kind of very little structure in their cricket, from what I was used to as a South African. You know, our school system in South Africa is very strong, cricket school system. So we play, young cricketers don't play senior cricket, they play schools cricket until they're 18. And the cricket's competitive at schoolboy level, so there's a lot of structure from a very early age. And I think that can sometimes, it's been a strength of South Africa, but also a weakness. So what I tried to do when I came back and joined the Proteas was to try and break the structure and allow guys just to go take it on and be a little bit more, take on a bit more risk rather than being risk averse. South Africans are very risk averse. We've lived through some trying times in our country, so we kind of are scared to kind of take on too much. We want to go by structure. We want someone to tell us what to do. Certainly when I took over that team, I tried to create a bit more of a freer environment, a more enjoyable environment. Go take it on. You make the decision at the end of your mark when you've got to defend 16. Go take it on. We back you. You're here for that reason. Whereas with the Indian team, I just try to introduce just more in their training and anything, a little bit more structure to the way they did things, because I really thought practicing for the Indian team was just passing time. There's no other reason why they practice, to be honest.
Yeah, and you know, we're talking about lessons from the World Cup victories now. South Africa has never won the World Cup, despite being probably the best team never to have won the World Cup. So what do you think are the management lessons from the 2011 victory, which you think the South African team should take? You said like risk averse. Yes, that's one.
There's only one lesson. Eventually it's going to happen. It might take another 100 years, but eventually it's going to happen.
And Mr. Amarnath, you've been involved in a lot of curious dismissals, I would say, handling the ball, obstructing the field. I think that was against Sri Lanka and Arjuna Ranatunga. Once I also remember you hooking a ball for 6 and then falling onto the wicket. So what was it with you and all the unusual dismissals?
I think like my life, everything was unusual, you know, like. And nothing actually is part and parcel of the game. I think it's good to be in the record book for all this different dismissal. No, I think when you're playing, because you're playing in a regular way and things just happens and you don't plan for these kind of dismissal. And I remember like in Australia when I got out handling the ball, it's still very fresh in my memory that I played forward to Greg Matthews, and it was a turning track, and when you play forward, more or less your top and left hand is controlling the bat. So I played, the ball started rolling toward the stumps. So my front leg was already about a few feet or about a yard outside the crease, and right leg was just on the batting crease, and I could see the ball behind my leg. Nowhere I could have taken my bat over there. It was rolling so fast. It was just a reaction. I just put my hand to it to stop that ball. So I didn't want it to go to the wicket. And the moment I touched, I knew that I had made some mistake. I just walked away, you know, really. And I think the funniest dismissal, probably obstructing the field, you can say, it happened. We were playing a game against Sri Lanka. And we were playing in Ahmedabad. And Ranatunga was bowling. And you know Ranatunga, how athletic he was. Not while batting, while fielding. And he came and bowled a delivery. I came down the wicket. The ball hit my pad. The keeper was standing up. The keeper was over there. The ball was in the middle of the wicket. So I said, why poor Ranatunga, I should walk that way, you know, that far. So I kicked the ball to Ranatunga and he appealed. I was trying to help him. And definitely the umpire said, yes, you're out. And I think like, I never believe in abusing or sledging. Of course, I'm a Punjabi, you know how Punjabis are. But I never believe in that. But when he came on to bat, And I just told the captain, look, I am fielding at Silly Point. I never used to field there. Because I wanted to, like give him a gift back. And probably I gave the maximum Punjabi flowery language I spoke to him at that time, the only time in my life. And so it's fun. Like you learn with every game, and I think when you see things happening on the field, I don't think anybody really planned to do it. It just happens. Yeah.
Mr. Gavaskar, the funniest moment from your cricket career that you can remember where something like this happened, which would, something that you would totally not expect?
Well, I think it was perhaps the same match or the same tour. I was opening with the one and only Krishnamachari Srikanth. And Srikanth, it was quite incredible because Srikanth used to stand sometimes a little deep in the crease. Not, most batsmen tend to stand on the batting crease or one leg on either side of the crease. Some stand outside the crease. So he used to stand pretty much a little bit inside the crease. And he played forward and he left the ball alone. But he left the ball with such a flourish that he actually hit the stumps. It's the first time I've ever seen a batsman hitting the stumps when he was playing off the front foot. Off the back foot, yes, because you get close to the stumps. So it hit the thing, and only Dean Jones at square leg had actually noticed it. Nobody had noticed it because the ball had been collected by the wicketkeeper, so everybody was following the ball. The rest were following the ball. But Dean Jones, who was standing next to the square leg umpire, had noticed it. So he went on appealing, how's that, how's that? And of course, by that time we had seen the bail had fallen. And from the non-strikers end, I was saying to him, hey, Dino, what are you doing? What are you appealing for? So he's hit the wicket. And I looked up at Krishnamachari Srikanth and he said, huh? What? So he looked at me, huh? I don't know. I said, you don't know? Did your bat feel? Normally the bat feels. He said, no. And you know what? Despite all the TV replays, he was given not out. So that's him. And there's another one which I hope the ladies will excuse. We were playing in England a test match. And Ian Botham had been left out of the team for some reason. And it was big news in England, in the England newspapers. And it was an overcast day. The ball was, moving around a little bit. And both of us were having problems, we were playing and missing quite a bit. And suddenly there was this streaker, a lady who came onto the field, and she had a little banner saying, bring back Botham. So she was carrying that banner in her hand, bring back Botham, but she had, nothing on. So she started running towards the pitch. And by the time the stewards and the security staff started to come towards her, she had come almost towards the main center pitch, and Srikanth was opening the batting with me. So Srikanth's eyes were, and she I don't know how she had managed to run that far because she was wearing heels, and not the stiletto heels, but pretty sharp. My only concern was that she shouldn't come on the main good length part of the pitch with her heels. And so I was trying to shoo her off, and Srikanth was just, Anyway, she was taken off, the security guard, the police took off his helmet and covered, the offending part. And so anyway, we resumed play, and the sun has come out a little bit, which of course is what Srikanth always loved because he believed in the sun god. He used to always look up and do that. So the next 3 balls from this England bowlers, Srikanth was batting, he just smashed them. Boundary, boundary, boundary. So I walked down the pitch and I said, Macha, what's happening? He said, no, now my eyes are set. Now So this is what happens when you see some swinging balls, your eyes are set automatically. So that's exactly what happened. So that was probably one of the funniest incidents on the cricket field.
That is the, I think, the Indian flair that Mr. Kirsten was referring to. How about South Africa? What about in your playing career? What was the funniest experience that you came across?
Yeah, we had a few. You know, when you're on tour, there's always things going on. You know, I'll never forget we playing a World Series match in Adelaide against New Zealand, and Paul Adams was the 12th man, and Alan Donald got to the end of his mark, and his shoelace was undone. So he kind of pulled the lace to tie it up, and the lace broke. Okay, and he's about to start bowling, so he calls back to the change room for a new lace, you see. So all you could hear from above the kind of stand there in the change room is Paul Adams shouting back at him, "Which boot?" All he wanted was a new shoelace, not a new boot. But I think the funniest story that I've ever saw was just an event that unfolded in a match. We're playing India A in '96. And I was keeping then. It was one of the only games I kept because Dave Richardson was injured. And we had India A in a bit of trouble. In fact, they were about 180 for 8, and the number 10 batsman walked to the crease. I think his name was it Ankora? Tall
Sunil
seamer?
Ankola. Yeah,
Ankora?
Ankola.
Ankola.
Yeah, tall kind of seamer. And he walked to the crease, and we all figured, well, he can't hit the ball. Obviously, batting at 10, so we thought it would be a matter of time before we get him out. Pat Simcox was bowling. He was the guy who pretended to be an off spinner. Remember that guy? You know, when you designated an off spinner, the balls should turn, but he never turned one. He was actually just a slow seamer, you see. So he bowls in the first ball, and Cora goes to kind of play a forward defence, expecting it to turn, which it didn't. And I took the ball as the keeper, and I threw the ball back to Pat, and Pat got to the end of his mark and kind of shook the ball like this, you see, and shouted out to Ankora, "Do you want me to put a bell on it?" And so the next 4 deliveries went 4, 6, 6, 4. And Ankora shouted out to Pat Simcox, "Hey, Mr. Simcox, you know what it sounds like, now go fetch it."
Sonny, one for me and that. Joke for me and that. Me and that back to the room.
No. Today, India-Pakistan relations are a little dicey. No talk about me and that.
I think we've run out of time. It's been a fascinating discussion, but as the last question, what message would you like to give to the Indian community here, all of you, and what would you like to say to all the Indians gathered here?
Unity, that's number one. I think unity is absolutely necessary. We are a special nation with different languages, different cultures. But there's that Indianness that all of us have that binds us together, and I think that's something that we must never forget. And for that we need to be united, that unity is, and of course the self-belief. I think it was self-belief that took the 1983 team to an unexpected win. Unexpected for the rest of the world, but I think that team believed that they could win it. So I think self-belief is another one. So unity and self-belief are the two things that I would say we Indians need to look at.
Mr. Amarnath?
No, I believe nothing is impossible in life, and one should not get disappointed with failure, and you have to just keep trying. I remember like 75, I was talking about we all have dreams, and we should have dreams to achieve something great in life. So 75, when I was sitting with my teammates watching the final, it was my dream to be there in the middle one day, and it happened in 83. And you work hard towards your goal, and just don't be satisfied with your performance. That's the way I see my life. And take every day as a challenge, new challenge, and you should not be really satisfied with your past performance, good or bad, whatever. And because what is important is today. Aaj hai to jahan hai. And I wish you all a great success in life. It's wonderful to be here, and I think it's wonderful to see people doing things together. As Sunny also mentioned about unity, I think as India, and India probably we feel it's a great country, and we will be greater in the future.
Finally, Mr. Kirsten.
Yeah, I think in many ways South Africa are kind of following in the footsteps of India in terms of how sport unites a nation. In many ways, we're similar in countries where we have massive diversity, and we have people from all walks of life living in different sets of circumstances, extreme poverty as well as extreme wealth. But yet, sport brings people together in a very pure and real way. And I've seen that none more real than in India, where you can go into any village in India and you can see the love of the game of cricket seeping through people's veins, even though they might have nothing and very little. And that kind of love affair with the game of cricket is unsurpassed anywhere else in the world. And that's very special, and it's something that's worth holding on to in terms of what the game of cricket means to so many people in India and Indians around the world.
Thank you. Now I think we'll have questions from the audience. I think.
Good evening, sir. My name is Manish Bucha. I'm one of the committee members in the Abu Dhabi chapter. It was a fantastic discussion that we had, and in fact, all of us very awed of your presence here. Cricket is something that we had started loving ever since 1983. I think that's what Anil mentioned, changed the face of cricketing in India. And I was very fortunate to have a good discussion with Mr. Amarnath yesterday as well. And he did mention about something, and I'm just touching upon that and asking a question to Mr. Amarnath himself. So you did mention that during your days, we did also discuss about the fun tours in UK. But there was other side as well, where we did not have much facilities, like the tour in Pakistan, where probably apart from two big cities, there were no facilities at all, even for hotel stay. And you guys probably stayed in a railway coach, and even for your bath, needed to bring hot water from the engines. And in today's world, where everything comes in very easily for not only the cricketers or other sports person, but everyone, what would be your message to the young generation, for whom everything is coming up very easily?
So, what is your message to the people? Like when you were playing, I mean, that time you talked about 1955, where you had to stay in a railway saloon with a coach. You didn't have a hotel those days. And now you have people who are pampered and you've got the hotels and best of everything. So, what is your message to the next generation of cricketers?
No, I think things do change with time, and I was talking about 1955, and we were just discussing, like, India team went to Pakistan after the partition, and when they were playing in small centers, there were no hotels over there in those days, and the team used to stay in the train saloons, in the train itself, and to have bath in the winter months, they had to go to the engine to collect hot water. But they were still representing, that they were proud to represent India. And I think it's a great honor to represent your country, whatever sports or whatever field you are in. And I think things do change with time. And like when I was playing, like I was quite happy the facilities we had, because in those days, probably we used to stay in motels rather than hotels initially. And then, of course, when we started doing well, the BCCI, got pleased with our performance, and then we were moved to 5-star hotel in the West Indies, I still remember. And whether you stay in big hotel, small hotel, it doesn't make any difference. Actually, what is important is your attitude towards life as such. And I think you should have the ambition, and you should live for today. That's the way I feel, and because there's no tomorrow or yesterday in my diary. And neither it comes. So like whatever facilities you should have or you have, I think you should enjoy. You should be content with what you have. Because as my mother used to say, कि दो रोटी से ज़्यादा तो खा नहीं सकते, तीन में तो पेट खराब हो जाएगा. And we work hard, and we should achieve the maximum. We should have the ambition to achieve something in life. And one should should try to become somebody. And when you should have your own identity wherever you are. I think that makes you a man. And when things are not going in your favor, you should not get dejected. I always believe when one door shuts, the other opens. But you have to keep trying and don't give up. Then I think you never go wrong in life.
My question goes to all three of you, actually. I suspect you might give three different answers. It's about managing emotions. After a defeat, what was the first thought that you would feel and the first thing that you would say to your team?
That's a good question, because I think that can be, you can take that into any industry when you get quarterly results back, and how do you reflect on that? It's very easy to kind of be happy and smiley when things have gone well and you've got the win, but actually when you haven't won a game, you lost a game, how do you respond as a leader in that space? And there are many times where you get very emotional. And I found when I got very emotional, I never said anything that was worthwhile listening to anyway, whether we had won or lost. So generally, as a rule, I would only give feedback once the emotion had died down, unless I felt that I needed to make a point, which I only did 3 times with the Indian team in 3 years at lunchtime, where I felt they were letting their country down by their effort on the field. But apart from that, and that happened very seldom. Outside of that, we would debrief matches and just talk about our performances 2 days after the event. Emotions have died down, and we're now not focusing on what we did wrong, we're focusing on what are we going to do the next time to make it better. I find once that emotion goes, you can get to real quality kind of decision making, come up with good stuff to take your performances forward from that moment. But yeah, I think sometimes it's dangerous to reflect any emotion.
Hello, I'd like to address this question to Mr. Gavaskar. To many of us, I think you were the most technically perfect batsman that we have seen. What do you attribute your success to, in terms of, if you had to pick 3 attributes for your technical excellence?
Well, thank you for saying that about my technique. Though if you sit with me and watch any video replay, I can point out 100 faults in the technique. But no, I think I believe there are 3 Ds which are most important for success in any career, and which is determination, dedication, and discipline. And as far as determination is concerned, it's a determination of not giving up, whatever the circumstances. The fact that you will have bad days along with good days, and you're trying to make it turn around to have more good days than bad days. So there is that determination, which also means that you are also looking at what you have done right and wrong and trying to get better. You're determined to get better than you were yesterday. You're determined to get better than you were, say, a week ago. So I think, or in the previous match. So that was the one determination. Dedication clearly means that you were so dedicated to your job, to your craft, that you practiced diligently, that you practiced with purpose, you dedicated your practice in such a way that you improved on a daily basis. That was the dedication. So you just were there focused. And discipline, of course, is not just the discipline of having, early hours, which of course is what your body needs, but the discipline to be able to adapt your game to the changing situation that the game forces on you. The game forces different, situations on you. And you must have the discipline, the mental discipline to be able to change that game around, to try in the interest of the team. It doesn't happen all the time. We get it wrong so many times. But I think those are the 3 Ds which, if applied to any career, any profession, will probably see more success than failure.
This is a question for Gary in the first row here. When you're managing a team consisting of mega stars and superstars, how do you as a coach deal with the management of ego? Without naming names, I want to learn something how do you manage so many male alphas as a coach from an ego handling perspective?
I think it's again a good question. I guess in the business space, it could be the high performer in your business who maybe doesn't quite buy into what the vision and the statement at the front of the wall is written out on, that he's kind of on his own, a little bit on his own mission. And certainly in cricket, you get those guys as well. Unfortunately, in cricket, we have a limited resource. So it's not as if you can just toss them out and say, well, we don't need you. We'll find someone else who is a team man. We need those guys. So it's how can you use them really effectively, but they're not making a big contribution to the team, or they're not a big influencer in the team. And a lot of those guys, mavericks, I suppose we call them, would do it anyway. They kind of do their own thing anyway. And there's some nice mavericks and some not so nice mavericks. The not so nice mavericks are the guys who pull people with them. They want to take people along for the ride, generally junior guys. And junior guys get influenced by the senior player, and he pulls them along with him, and he's a bit destructive in the team space. He doesn't have the team's interests at heart. So you need to manage those players really carefully, and I think it's a responsibility of the leader to be able to manage that space. So the example of the Indian team, where there were a lot of very kind of well thought after brands, was to kind of bring them down to size in many ways, and that was my responsibility. And again, it was just a daily language about, it's actually not about you. It's not about your test match average of 52. I'm not interested. It's about how many wins we put up in the team over the next 2 years, and what our goal is as a group. Do we want to become the best cricket team in the world? Yes. Well, then VVS Laxman's 83 not out is much more important than your 180, which got us a draw. His 83, which got us the win, is far more important. And I think players started to buy into that we needed contributions under pressure. We didn't need the 180 on a flat wicket that meant nothing to the team. Contributions under pressure became critical, and I'll never forget one test match at Mohali, you guys will remember, playing against Australia. We needed 220 to win the game. We were 120 for 8. And Ishant Sharma walked to the crease. VVS Laxman was still batting at the time. And we were dead and buried. But I'd remembered that Ishant Sharma had worked tirelessly on his batting over the 2-3 week period leading into that series. And I knew there was going to come one time where he was going to stick around and knock it out. And it happened to be in that game. And he ended up getting 2 runs in 45 balls, while VVS Laxman was scoring at the other end. We ended up winning the game. And that was an example to me of a team, or a group of individuals, or a individual in a team representing the pressure moment for his team, because Ishant Sharma is never going to be remembered for his batting, never be recognized for his batting, but he was prepared to put the effort in for the team.
Thanks to all of you, and I must share that we all of us admit that we all, as a chartered accountants, when we started our career and school days to college days, we all have been inspired by all of you at some point of time when you used to watch and follow cricket. Now I have this question to Mr. Sunny Gavaskar. In all the matches you have never wear helmet, So, and in fact, one of that, when I moved as an entrepreneur, I used to see that you have been one of the risk taker where you have never wore the helmet. So what was the trick? What has been inspired that you always used to wear the cap in the matches?
Well, I think the simple answer is there was nothing inside to protect. No, actually, when we started playing cricket, helmets and all were not there. In fact, I remember, and I think Jimmy will probably also around the same time, there were no thigh pads. We used to go, whichever hotel we stayed in, the hand towel which used to be there, we used to take that with us to the ground and shove it in our pockets, and that would be our thigh pad. So, you tried to improvise at that stage. Nobody had thought of a helmet. Never struck us about a helmet. Never struck me to wear a helmet. And though Imran Khan, who's a good friend despite being an opposition fast bowler, he used to keep on telling me that, you must wear a helmet for that one ball that every batsman loses sight of, which is a fact. There is one ball that the best of batsmen do not pick and therefore can get them into trouble. And he said, for that one ball, you must start wearing a helmet. But I just didn't, I somehow had, maybe confidence in myself. I started wearing a skull cap, and that happened because when we were playing the West Indies in the West Indies, Malcolm Marshall hit me on the head straight over here. He was bowling around the wicket. He bowled a bouncer, a short ball, and your instinctive reaction is to drop your wrists so that you don't sort of fend the ball up in the air. So I dropped my wrists, but forgot to take my head out of the way. But luckily I didn't turn my face away, because if I turned my face away, I would have been hit on the softer part here. So luckily I got hit here. I still, batted, played the rest of the test matches. But I think I said to myself that maybe, now I should maybe start using a skull cap, and that's so I used to have a skull cap on for the first session with the new ball, and then take the skull cap off after that. So even if the fast bowlers were bowling after that, after the new ball was done, I seldom had the skull cap on. But it was, I guess, just a matter of getting used to playing without any protective equipment.
I'll add on to that inning of Sunny. I still remember we were playing in Guyana, and Malcolm bowled a short ball, and as he said, he dropped his wrist and hit him over here. It didn't rub. It didn't react, as if a tennis ball had hit him over there, and went on to score 100. So I think especially when you're in such a situation, like when you're in pain, but you're doing something here for your country, for your team, for your nation, so you don't show your pain over there. I think that's the best way to get out of that crunch situation or a difficult time.
And the thing is, this was the third test, and my wife arrived from India just the previous a couple of days earlier. So understandably, my footwork wasn't all that good.
Good evening, sirs. Future for women's cricket.
I think out of all the cricket that you see, women's cricket is the most stylish and most elegant. I really love watching women's cricket. No, seriously, because of the fact that they play it so stylishly, so elegantly. They might not have the power to hit the big sixes, but I would much rather see style and elegance. Like, for example, watching Gundappa Vishwanath was such a delight. Watching VVS Lakshman, such a delight, because they are stylish. Watching Mahela Jayawardena when he bats. So I think yes, and now that in India, at least the BCCI has now put the women's cricketers, the Indian women's cricketers under a contract system, which gives them the encouragement, gives their parents the encouragement to allow the girls, their daughters to play. I think women's cricket will certainly progress faster, I think, with this particular movement. Because at the end of the day, parents have to feel that my child spending so much time is going to be worthwhile. It's going to be some sort of a career option. Cricket has become a career option in India thanks to the IPL. And now, as I said, with women cricketers being put under a contract, graded contract like the men's team is, I think the future is looking bright.
Good evening, sirs. It's been a pleasure witnessing this session. My question is for Mr. Gary Kirsten. When you started playing cricket as a youngster, maybe in the 1980s, that time South Africa were not yet in the international mode. I mean, they didn't play international cricket. So what is it that kept you motivated to playing cricket? I mean, at that point, you didn't even know whether South Africa will play cricket, international cricket, when you were there.
So we were still playing cricket professionally, but internally in our country. So you could still sign on and have a contract as a professional. So I signed my first contract in 1987, which is a fairly long time ago. And I think my first contract I was earning, what would it be in today's terms? About $50 a month. Okay, as my first contract. So that's not so long ago when you think back. That's what we were earning. So it was kind of in that semi-professional space, and then it developed very quickly once we got back into the international scene. But you could still aspire to play the game professionally, even though we weren't involved in international competition. And obviously, when we got back into international competition, starting out in India, when was it? 91, 92, 91, I think it was. 90,000 people at Eden Gardens. I mean, that ignited the interest of cricket in our country like you won't believe. And it was India who were the first country to accept us back into international competition. So that connection's never going to go away. But I mean, I think from that moment on, we all realized, and at that stage, I was a 22-year-old, 21-year-old playing the game. And from that moment onwards, we were all just geared and G'd up. We've got to go get some hundreds at first class level here because I want to play in that team.
Thank you very much. They definitely deserve a standing ovation.